It all started on a chilly Friday evening in late October. Alex was never one to misplace things. His friends often joked that his apartment looked like it had been organized by a professional, with everything meticulously arranged and labeled. But that night was different. Maybe it was the 3 craft beers he'd consumed at the new brewery downtown. Or perhaps it was the distraction of running into his ex-girlfriend for the first time since their messy breakup 6 months ago. Whatever the reason, Alex found himself standing outside his apartment building at 2 a.m., patting down his pockets with increasing panic, the realization slowly dawning on him that his keys were nowhere to be found. Alex lived in one of those old converted factory buildings in the Arts District. All exposed brick and industrial pipes, the kind of place that photographed well for Instagram, but was drafty in the winter and sweltering in the summer. He'd chosen it for the floor-to-ceiling windows and the proximity to his favorite coffee shop, where he spent most weekend mornings working on his graphic design projects. His life had fallen into a comfortable rhythm since moving to the city 3 years ago. Work at the boutique design agency during the week, drinks with colleagues on Fridays, and quiet, productive weekends alone. It wasn't exciting, but it was stable, and after the chaos of his 20s, Alex had come to appreciate stability. Standing outside in the cold that night, Alex had 2 options: call his landlord and pay the exorbitant after-hours lockout fee, or crash on his friend Miguel's couch a few blocks away. He chose the latter, sending a desperate text and trudging through the quiet streets, cursing himself for being so careless. What he couldn't have known then was that losing his keys would lead to finding something, or rather, someone, who would turn his carefully organized life completely upside down. The next morning, nursing a slight hangover and a wounded pride, Alex received a message from an unknown number. Found a set of keys at the copper tap last night. Keychain has a miniature blue skateboard. Yours. The blue skateboard keychain had been a gift from his younger sister, a nod to their childhood when Alex had taught her to skateboard in their driveway. He quickly confirmed they were his keys and arranged to meet the finder, someone named Jamie, later that day. Let me tell you about Jamie. When Alex arrived at the coffee shop where they'd agreed to meet, he scanned the room, looking for someone holding a set of keys. His eyes landed on a man sitting by the window, dark curly hair falling over his forehead as he read something on his phone. There was something immediately striking about him. Maybe it was the way the afternoon light caught in his hair, or the thoughtful expression on his face. Alex approached cautiously, and when Jamie looked up, Alex felt an unexpected flutter in his stomach. Jamie's eyes were a warm amber, crinkling at the corners when he smiled in recognition. "You must be Alex," Jamie said, standing to shake his hand. His voice was deeper than Alex had expected, with a slight accent he couldn't quite place. "I found these last night." He held out the keys, the blue skateboard keychain dangling between them. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Alex felt a jolt of something he hadn't experienced in a long time. He'd dated both men and women in the past, but after his last relationship ended badly, he'd retreated into himself, focusing on work and avoiding anything that might lead to emotional entanglement. Yet here he was, feeling inexplicably drawn to a complete stranger who had done nothing more remarkable than return his lost keys. "I can't thank you enough," Alex said, pocketing the keys. "You saved me from having to change all my locks. Can I buy you a coffee? It's the least I can do." Jamie smiled, and Alex noticed a small dimple in his left cheek. "I've actually already ordered, but I wouldn't say no to some company." What was supposed to be a quick thank you coffee turned into a 2-hour conversation. Jamie, it turned out, was a music producer who had recently moved to the city to work with an independent record label. He'd grown up in Melbourne, which explained the accent Alex had detected, and had traveled extensively before settling in the States. He spoke with passion about everything: music, travel, food, and Alex found himself completely captivated, sharing stories and opinions more freely than he had with anyone in months. As the afternoon wore on, Alex became increasingly aware of small details about Jamie: the way he gestured with his hands when excited about a topic, how he listened intently when Alex spoke, leaning forward slightly, as if afraid to miss a word. There was an ease to their interaction that felt both novel and familiar, like rediscovering a favorite song from years ago. When they finally left the coffee shop, stepping out into the early evening air, there was a moment of awkward hesitation. Alex didn't want the conversation to end, but he wasn't sure how to extend it without seeming too eager or presumptuous. Jamie solved the dilemma for him. I'm actually heading to a small gallery opening tonight. A friend's photography exhibition. Would you like to come? It's nothing fancy, just wine in plastic cups and pretentious conversations about lighting techniques. His smile was both teasing and hopeful. Alex should have said no. He had work to finish over the weekend, and getting involved with someone new wasn't part of his plan for rebuilding his life post-breakup. But something about Jamie made all his careful rules seem suddenly arbitrary and unimportant. I'd love to, he heard himself say. Though I should warn you, I studied design. I might be one of those pretentious people analyzing the lighting techniques. Jamie laughed, and the sound of it made Alex's chest feel light. I'm counting on it. Meet me there at 8. He took Alex's phone and entered his contact information, then sent himself a text so he'd have Alex's number too. The gallery was in a converted warehouse space not far from Alex's apartment. Walking there that evening, Alex felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness that he hadn't experienced in a long time. He'd changed clothes twice before leaving, settling on dark jeans and a navy button-down that his ex had once said brought out the blue in his eyes. He told himself it was just because the shirt was comfortable, not because he was trying to impress Jamie. The gallery was already crowded when Alex arrived, the white walls lined with large black and white photographs of urban landscapes. He spotted Jamie near the back, talking animatedly with a woman whose platinum blonde hair was cut in a severe bob. When Jamie saw Alex, his face lit up in a way that made Alex's nervousness dissolve into something warmer. You made it, Jamie said, touching Alex's arm lightly as he introduced him to the photographer, his friend Elise. I was just telling her about how we met. She thinks it's very romantic, losing your keys only to have them returned by a handsome stranger. Alex felt his cheeks warm at the casual compliment. I wouldn't recommend it as a dating strategy, he joked. Too many variables. What if my keys had been found by an elderly man or a college student? Then we wouldn't be here now, Jamie said simply, his eyes holding Alex's for a moment longer than necessary. And that would be a shame. The evening unfolded in a series of moments that Alex would later replay in his mind. Jamie explaining the story behind a particularly striking photograph, their shoulders touching as they stood side by side. Jamie getting them both another glass of wine, remembering that Alex had mentioned preferring red. Jamie introducing him to various friends, his hand resting lightly on the small of Alex's back in a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. By the time they left the gallery, the night had taken on that magical quality that happens when you connect with someone new. The world seemed more vibrant, more full of possibility. They walked aimlessly through the city streets, continuing their conversation from earlier, sharing stories and opinions and occasional brushes of their hands. I live just around the corner, Alex said as they approached his building. Would you like to come up for a drink? I owe you for returning my keys, after all. He tried to keep his tone casual, but his heart was racing. Jamie looked at him for a long moment, his expression unreadable in the dim street light. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. I'm sure, Alex said, more confidently than he felt. Besides, I want to hear more about that time you got lost in Tokyo and ended up performing with a street band. Jamie's smile returned, warm and genuine. Well, when you put it like that, how can I refuse? Alex's apartment looked different somehow with Jamie in it. The space that had always felt like a carefully curated representation of himself now seemed both more intimate and more exposed. He was acutely aware of the books on his shelves, the art on his walls, all the little choices that revealed aspects of his personality. Nice place, Jamie said, wandering over to examine a framed print above Alex's desk. Is this your work? Alex nodded, pouring them each a glass of whiskey. Part of a series I did last year. Experimenting with color and texture. It's beautiful, Jamie said, and the simple sincerity in his voice made Alex feel both proud and vulnerable. You're very talented. They settled on the couch, angled toward each other, the conversation flowing as easily as it had all evening. Jamie told more travel stories, about getting caught in a monsoon in Thailand, about the family who had taken him in when he missed the last train in rural Italy, about the sunset over the Pacific that had inspired him to pursue music production. What about you? Jamie asked eventually. What made you choose design? Alex considered the question, taking a sip of his whiskey. I've always been drawn to visual communication, how shapes and colors can convey emotions and ideas without words. There's something powerful about creating something that speaks to people on an instinctual level. Jamie nodded thoughtfully. That's how I feel about music. It's a language that transcends barriers, that connects people across differences. Exactly, Alex said, feeling a surge of connection. It's about finding ways to express the inexpressible. They were sitting closer now, though Alex couldn't remember either of them moving. Jamie's knee was just touching his, a point of warmth and contact that seemed to radiate through his body. The apartment felt charged with potential energy, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Can I ask you something? Jamie said, his voice softer now. Alex nodded, not trusting himself to speak. What happened with your ex? You mentioned a bad breakup earlier. The question caught Alex off guard. He hadn't spoken much about Mia to anyone, preferring to package the experience neatly away rather than examine it too closely. But something about Jamie's gentle curiosity made him want to share. Her name was Mia, he began. We were together for almost 2 years. I thought we were building something real, but it turns out she didn't see it that way. She'd been seeing someone else for months before I found out. He took another sip of whiskey, feeling the familiar ache of betrayal, though duller now than it had been. The worst part wasn't even the cheating. It was realizing that I'd been so completely wrong about what we had. I thought we were on the same page, but we weren't even reading the same book. Jamie's expression was sympathetic, but not pitying. That's rough. Trust is hard to rebuild after something like that. Yeah, Alex agreed. I've been focusing on work, keeping things simple. It's easier that way. Is it? Jamie asked, his gaze direct and questioning. Easier, I mean. Or just safer? The question hit uncomfortably close to home. Alex looked down at his glass, turning it slowly in his hands. Maybe both. What about you? Any heartbreak in your past? Jamie leaned back slightly, his expression becoming more guarded. A few. The most significant was with a guy named Thomas. We were together throughout university and for a couple of years after. He was brilliant, a pianist, classically trained. We had this dream of building a life in music together. He paused, a shadow crossing his face. But he got an opportunity to join an orchestra in Berlin, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I couldn't ask him to stay, and he couldn't ask me to go, so we ended it. Do you regret it? Alex asked. Not going with him. Jamie considered this, his amber eyes reflective. I regret the pain of the separation, but not the decision itself. We were young, still becoming who we needed to be. Sometimes love isn't enough if the timing isn't right. There was wisdom in his words that resonated with Alex. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the space between them filled with shared understanding. Can I get you another drink? Alex asked eventually, noticing Jamie's glass was empty. Actually, Jamie said, setting his glass down on the coffee table, there's something else I'd like. Alex's heart skipped a beat. What's that? Jamie moved closer, slowly enough that Alex could have pulled away if he wanted to. But he didn't want to. Not at all. I'd like to kiss you, Jamie said, his voice low. If that's okay. The moment stretched between them, taut with anticipation. Alex could feel his pulse racing, could see the same desire reflected in Jamie's eyes. All the reasons why this might be a bad idea, the fact that they'd just met, his own emotional walls, the potential for complication, seemed insignificant compared to the overwhelming urge to close the distance between them. Yes, Alex whispered. That's okay. Jamie's hand came up to cup his cheek, warm and gentle. The first touch of their lips was tentative, questioning. But when Alex responded, leaning into the kiss, Jamie made a soft sound of approval that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. The kiss deepened, becoming more confident, more exploratory. Jamie's lips were soft but insistent, his hand sliding from Alex's cheek to the back of his neck, fingers threading through his hair. Alex couldn't remember the last time a kiss had affected him so strongly. It was as if every nerve ending in his body had suddenly awakened, hyper-aware of every point of contact between them. Jamie's hand on his neck, their knees pressed together, the soft brush of Jamie's curls against his forehead. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Alex felt dizzy with want and wonder. Wow, he said, unable to come up with anything more eloquent. Jamie smiled, the dimple appearing in his cheek again. Yeah, wow. They looked at each other for a long moment, the air between them charged with possibility. Then Jamie glanced at his watch and sighed. It's getting late. I should probably go. A flash of disappointment shot through Alex, though he knew Jamie was right. Whatever was happening between them deserved time and space to develop naturally, not rushed in the heat of the moment. Can I see you again? Alex asked as he walked Jamie to the door. Jamie's smile was answer enough, but he said, I was hoping you'd ask. Are you free tomorrow night? There's a jazz club I've been wanting to check out. It's a date, Alex said, the word date feeling significant and thrilling. At the door, Jamie kissed him again, more briefly this time, but with no less intensity. Good night, Alex. Thanks for the drink. And the conversation. And, he gestured between them, a smile playing at his lips. Thank you for returning my keys, Alex replied. Best lost and found experience ever. After Jamie left, Alex leaned against the closed door, his mind replaying the events of the day. 24 hours ago, he'd been cursing his carelessness for losing his keys. Now, he was grateful for that moment of distraction. It had led him to Jamie, to that kiss, to the promise of tomorrow night and whatever might follow. The next few weeks passed in a blur of discovery and delight. Alex and Jamie fell into a rhythm together, seeing each other almost every day. They explored the city, Jamie showing Alex hidden music venues he'd discovered, Alex introducing Jamie to his favorite art galleries and design bookstores. They cooked dinner together in Alex's apartment, Jamie's culinary skills far surpassing Alex's basic repertoire. They stayed up late talking about everything and nothing. Childhood memories, professional aspirations, philosophical questions about art and life and purpose. And they kissed. A lot. Each time felt both familiar and new, a conversation without words that grew more fluent with practice. They took things slowly in other respects, both aware of the intensity of their connection and wanting to build a foundation beyond physical attraction. But the desire between them was a constant undercurrent, electric and insistent. One evening, about 3 weeks after they'd met, they were at Jamie's apartment, a cozy one-bedroom in a pre-war building with high ceilings and beautiful moldings. Jamie was cooking, something with garlic and wine that filled the space with mouth-watering aromas, while Alex sat at the kitchen counter, watching him move confidently around the small space. You're staring, Jamie said, glancing over his shoulder with a smile. Just appreciating the view, Alex replied, not bothering to deny it. And trying to figure out how I got so lucky. Jamie turned, wiping his hands on a dish towel. Luck had nothing to do with it. You were careless enough to lose your keys, and I was honest enough to return them. When you put it that way, it sounds very unromantic, Alex laughed. Jamie came around the counter, stepping between Alex's knees where he sat on the bar stool. Oh, I don't know. I think there's something very romantic about it. The universe conspiring to bring two people together through a series of unlikely events. The universe, huh? Alex said, sliding his hands up Jamie's arms to rest on his shoulders. Not just chance. I don't believe in coincidences, Jamie said, his expression growing more serious. Not when it comes to you. From the moment I saw your keys on that bar stool, something told me they were important. Not just the keys themselves, but what they might lead to. The sincerity in his voice made Alex's chest tighten with emotion. In the short time they'd known each other, Jamie had become incredibly important to him, in ways that both exhilarated and terrified him. He was falling, had perhaps already fallen, and the vulnerability of that feeling was overwhelming. Jamie, he began, not sure what he wanted to say, but feeling the need to express something of the tumult inside him. But Jamie silenced him with a gentle kiss. The sauce is going to burn if I don't get back to it, he murmured against Alex's lips. We can talk after dinner. Dinner was delicious, pasta with a rich garlic and wine sauce, crusty bread, a simple salad. They ate at Jamie's small dining table, their conversation flowing easily as always. But Alex could sense an undercurrent of tension, a sense that they were both circling around something important but unsaid. After they'd cleared the dishes, Jamie opened a bottle of wine, and they moved to the couch. The apartment was bathed in the warm glow of lamplight, soft music playing from Jamie's impressive sound system. It felt intimate, charged with potential. So, Jamie said, turning to face Alex on the couch. You were about to say something earlier, before I rudely interrupted you to save our dinner. Alex took a sip of wine, gathering his thoughts. I was just thinking about how unexpected all of this has been. You, us, How quickly you've become important to me. Jamie's expression softened. You've become important to me too, Alex. More than I anticipated. It scares me sometimes, Alex admitted, vulnerability making his voice quieter. How much I feel for you already. After Mia, I thought I'd be more cautious, more guarded. But with you, it's like all those walls just dissolved. Jamie reached out, taking Alex's hand in his. I know what you mean. It's intense, isn't it? Like we've known each other much longer than we actually have. Alex nodded, relieved that Jamie understood. Exactly. And part of me keeps waiting for the other shoe to drop, you know? For something to go wrong or for you to suddenly reveal some terrible secret. Jamie laughed softly. Like what? That I'm actually a vampire? Or that I have a secret family in Melbourne? Maybe not that dramatic, Alex smiled. But something. Some reason why this seems too good to be true. Jamie's expression grew more serious. I don't have any terrible secrets, Alex. What you see is what you get. Just a guy who found your keys and fell for you faster than he thought possible. He paused, his thumb tracing patterns on Alex's palm. But I do understand the fear. After Thomas, I was wary too. Opening yourself up to someone means risking pain. There's no way around that. So how do we do this? Alex asked. How do we move forward without letting fear hold us back? Jamie considered this, his amber eyes thoughtful. I think we just keep doing what we're doing. Taking it day by day. Being honest with each other. And trusting that whatever happens, it's worth the risk. The simplicity of his answer was reassuring. Alex leaned forward, resting his forehead against Jamie's. I can do that. Day by day. Good. Jamie whispered, then closed the distance between them, capturing Alex's lips in a kiss that felt like both a question and an answer. The kiss deepened quickly, weeks of restraint giving way to urgency. Jamie's hands were in his hair, on his back, pulling him closer. Alex responded in kind, his fingers tracing the contours of Jamie's shoulders, his chest, learning him by touch. When Jamie gently pushed him back against the couch cushions, covering Alex's body with his own, the weight of him felt right, necessary. Is this okay? Jamie murmured against his neck, his breath warm and enticing. More than okay, Alex assured him, his hands finding their way under Jamie's shirt, seeking the heat of his skin. They moved together on the couch, exploring each other with increasing boldness. Each touch, each kiss was a revelation, a piece of a language they were creating together. When Jamie's hand slipped beneath the waistband of Alex's jeans, Alex gasped, arching into the touch. Bedroom, Jamie suggested, his voice rough with desire. Alex nodded, unable to form words. They made their way down the hall, shedding clothes as they went, unwilling to break contact for more than a moment. In Jamie's bedroom, with moonlight filtering through the curtains, they took their time, learning each other's bodies with reverent attention. Every sigh, every shudder was noted and treasured, a map of pleasure they drew together. Afterward, lying tangled in Jamie's sheets, Alex felt a profound sense of peace. Jamie's head rested on his chest, his curls tickling Alex's chin. Their breathing had slowed, synchronized in the quiet room. You okay? Jamie asked softly, propping himself up on one elbow to look at Alex. Alex smiled, reaching up to trace the line of Jamie's jaw. I'm perfect. You. Never better. Jamie replied, leaning down to press a gentle kiss to Alex's lips. Stay the night. Try and make me leave, Alex said, pulling Jamie back down beside him. As they drifted toward sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, Alex thought about the keys that had brought them together. Such a small thing, so easily lost and found. Yet it had led to this moment, this man, this feeling of coming home to a place he hadn't known he was searching for. The following weeks were a continuation of their honeymoon phase, each day bringing new discoveries and deepening connection. They settled into a comfortable routine, spending most nights together at either Alex's apartment or Jamie's. They met each other's friends, integrated their social circles, became a recognized couple in their shared spaces. But as with any new relationship, there were adjustments and occasional tensions. Jamie's work schedule was erratic, with late nights at the studio that sometimes left Alex feeling neglected. Alex's tendency toward tidiness clashed with Jamie's more relaxed approach to housekeeping. They had their first real argument about a month and a half in, when Jamie forgot an important dinner with Alex's colleagues, a miscommunication that highlighted their different approaches to planning and commitment. The argument itself wasn't catastrophic, but it triggered Alex's insecurities. In the days that followed, he found himself pulling back slightly, creating emotional distance as a form of self-protection. Jamie noticed, of course, he was perceptive about such things, but his attempts to discuss it were met with Alex's assurances that everything was fine. Everything came to a head one evening when Jamie arrived at Alex's apartment unexpectedly. Alex had been working late on a project, his living room transformed into a makeshift studio with design samples and sketches spread across every surface. He was surprised to see Jamie, having thought he was working at the studio that night. "Hey," Alex said, removing his glasses and rubbing his tired eyes. "I wasn't expecting you tonight." Jamie stood in the doorway, a determined expression on his face. "I know, but we need to talk, and you've been avoiding me." "I haven't been avoiding you," Alex protested, though he knew there was truth to the accusation. "I've just been busy with this project." Jamie sighed, closing the door behind him and stepping into the apartment. "Alex, I know when something's wrong. You've been distant ever since our argument last week. And instead of talking to me about it, you're shutting me out." Alex felt a flare of defensiveness. "I'm not shutting you out. I'm just focused on work right now." "Bull," Jamie said, not unkindly. "This is exactly what you told me you did after Mia. Retreat into work, avoid emotional engagement. I thought we were going to be different." The accuracy of Jamie's assessment stung. Alex turned away, busying himself with organizing the papers on his coffee table. "It's not the same situation, isn't it?" Jamie moved closer, his voice softening. "You're afraid of getting hurt again, so you're creating distance." "I get it, Alex. But it's not fair to either of us." Alex felt a lump forming in his throat, emotion welling up despite his efforts to contain it. "What do you want from me, Jamie?" "I want you to talk to me," Jamie said simply. "Tell me what you're feeling, what you're afraid of. Let me in." The gentleness in his voice broke something open in Alex. He sat heavily on the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I'm afraid of how much I care about you," he admitted, the words difficult to push past the tightness in his chest. "I'm afraid that I'm more invested than you are. That one day you'll realize I'm not what you want, and I'll be left picking up the pieces again." Jamie sat beside him, close but not touching. "Why would you think I'm less invested?" Alex shrugged, feeling foolish now that he was voicing his fears. "You forgot the dinner with my colleagues. You're always so busy with your music. Sometimes it feels like I'm just one part of your life, while you've become the center of mine." Understanding dawned on Jamie's face. "Oh, Alex, the dinner was a mistake, a genuine oversight. And yes, my work is important to me, just like yours is to you. But that doesn't mean you're not equally important." He reached for Alex's hand, entwining their fingers. "Do you want to know why I was at the studio so late last night?" Alex nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "I'm working on a piece inspired by you. By us. I've been trying to capture in music what it felt like that first day, when you walked into the coffee shop and my whole world shifted." Jamie's eyes were earnest, vulnerable. "I'm all in, Alex. Completely. If I've made you feel otherwise, I'm sorry." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. Alex felt a wave of shame for having doubted him, for having projected his past hurts onto their present. "I'm sorry too," he said, "for pulling away instead of talking to you. Old habits, I guess." Jamie squeezed his hand. "We're both learning. But we can't do this if you retreat every time you feel insecure. We have to face things together." "I know," Alex agreed. "I'll try to be better at that." "That's all I ask," Jamie said, leaning in to kiss him softly. "And I'll try to be more mindful of showing you how important you are to me." They held each other on the couch for a long time, the tension of the past week dissolving in the warmth of honest communication. Later that night, Jamie played Alex the piece he'd been working on, a haunting, beautiful melody that somehow perfectly captured the feeling of falling in love unexpectedly. Alex listened with tears in his eyes, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion Jamie had poured into the music. "It's beautiful," he whispered when the last notes faded. "It's you," Jamie replied simply. "It's us." That night marked a turning point in their relationship. The walls Alex had built around his heart continued to crumble, brick by brick, as he allowed himself to trust in what they were building together. Jamie, for his part, became more expressive with his feelings, more deliberate in showing Alex his place in his life and his heart. 3 months after the day Jamie returned Alex's keys, they were having dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant, a tiny place with only 6 tables and the best carbonara in the city. They'd been talking about an upcoming music festival where one of Jamie's artists would be performing, making plans for the weekend. "Oh, and before I forget," Jamie said, reaching into his pocket, "I have something for you." He placed a small object on the table between them. It was a key, new and shiny, attached to a keychain with a miniature piano. Alex looked at it, then up at Jamie, a question in his eyes. "It's a key to my apartment," Jamie explained, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "I thought it was time you had one. You know, in case you ever lose your own keys again and need a place to crash." The joke was light, but the gesture was significant. Alex picked up the key, feeling its weight in his palm. "Are you sure?" Jamie nodded, his amber eyes warm with certainty. "I'm sure. I love you, Alex. I think I have since that first day at the coffee shop. I want you to have access to my space, my life, all of it." It was the first time either of them had said those words, "I love you." They'd been implied, demonstrated in countless ways, but never explicitly stated. Hearing them now, in this cozy restaurant where they'd shared so many meals and conversations, felt right. "Perfect. I love you too," Alex said, the words coming easily, naturally. "And not just because you're giving me a key to your apartment." Jamie laughed, reaching across the table to take his hand. "Good to know. Though I was prepared to bribe you with more if necessary." "No bribery needed," Alex assured him. "Just you. That's all I want." As they walked home that night, hand in hand under a sky full of stars, Alex thought again about the strange serendipity that had brought them together. His lost keys, Jamie's honesty in returning them, the connection that had sparked between them instantly and grown steadily stronger with each passing day. "What are you thinking about?" Jamie asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. Alex smiled, squeezing his hand. "Just that I never thought losing my keys would be the best thing that ever happened to me." Jamie stopped walking, turning to face him on the quiet street. "It was, wasn't it? The best thing." "Definitely," Alex agreed. "You came to return my keys, but you kept my heart instead." Jamie's smile was radiant in the moonlight. "Fair trade, I'd say, since you've got mine too." They kissed there on the sidewalk, oblivious to the few passers-by, lost in each other and the love they'd found so unexpectedly. Alex knew there would be challenges ahead, disagreements to navigate, compromises to make, life's inevitable complications. But he also knew, with a certainty that ran bone deep, that they would face it all together. Because sometimes the things we lose lead us to find what we never knew we were looking for. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, what we find is even better than what we thought we wanted. As they continued their walk home, Alex felt the new key in his pocket, a tangible symbol of the future they were building together. It had started with a lost set of keys and a chance meeting. Where it would lead, he couldn't say for certain. But he was eager to unlock each new door with Jamie by his side. Total _char_count, 18,837.